Welcome back to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast. I am Bill Caskey.
And I'm Bryan Neal.
And we are so glad you're with us today. We missed a week here a couple weeks ago, but we will never do that again.
My fault. That was my fault. We got behind, had some stuff, scheduling stuff pop up. Got to keep some episodes. We got to get some greatest hits episodes we can just play. So
yeah, I know.
Now I can't say we release every Monday. I've said that, I say that consistency. We release every Monday for 15 years, except for that Monday.
Back 2022.
Yeah.
We did an episode a couple of weeks ago on terrible ways to reach out to prospects.
Yes, we did.
And I got an email or on the LinkedIn page, I believe there was a guy who gave us an example. I'll give it to you right now.
Yes.
I won't say names, obviously, but he got an email about, like, on a Tuesday from someone said, "Hey, I'd like to get together with you sometime, catch up, see how I can help you," the same old thing. And he said, "No, thanks." And the salesperson said, "Okay." Three days later, he gets an email from this dude saying, "Following up on my previous message, can you please let me know your availability for a quick intro call to talk about our expertise and capabilities in detail?" And he was kind of laughing about it, but I don't think that's an unusual message. What's unusual is he said no, and the guy came back. And I know we're taught persistence, but that's a terrible.
No.
Let's schedule some time in your calendar so that you can hear about me.
That's horrible.
That message, about how good we are, expertise in detail. And he throws it in detail. I know you're not a detail guy, nor am I. Somebody says, "Hey, I want to share with you our expertise in detail." I'm like, oh God, no.
No. Well, the other thing we should do a topic on this. That is also, to me, and so LinkedIn automation is a big thing. So is email automation. And what happens is people load campaigns.
Yeah.
That are sequential.
This was a text. This was not a DM. This was a text.
Maybe they're doing that. That almost sounds like one. Either way. Yeah.
It might be.
If that's not a pre-programmed sequence, that's one of the worst things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, last week we talked about burnout, and then that person who sent that message and who sends 1,000 messages like that and gets nothing from it, then complains to his or her boss that they're burned out with their job. It's like, well, you didn't. Because there is a how-to as a part of this. There's a what to do, reach out on text, but then there's a how to do it. And that's why we do the Advanced Selling Podcast every week, but 2 weeks ago.
Except for the week that we missed. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I try so hard because there's so many people that judge, and the people in our world, we do it a little bit or a lot, but I don't know, the judge approaches,
Yeah.
But
right.
We still have to learn. I just don't. I just love to see the stats on that, because at some point there's someone behind there. I assume every company has some smart people there that are going, "This is working. We're sending 5,000 of these persistent texts out.
We got one.
We got one person. We closed the contract from that. Yep, we spent $30,000 on the text software and paid the salesperson $18,000, but we got a deal from it. It wasn't a total failure. I just don't understand that part of it.
No, you got to look at the positive side, Bryan.
Yeah, positive side. Yes, yeah.
All right. Topic today. I've got a client that is in a very brainy area. They are, let's just say they're consultants, and they go into hyper large companies, and their consulting is very specific around a niche, and they struggle with how to frame their value, because when they talk about we're a business, this is not what they do. I just kind of give you something to hang your hat on here. We are business systems and advisory. We're a business systems and advisory company.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, that doesn't help me much, because that could be lots of different things. And if they keep going, then they would go to the next sentence, which was even more confusing. And they were struggling because these people would say, I'm kind of covered there. I don't think I need that. I've got business, I've got advisory, I've got systems.
Yeah,
good.
We're good.
And so we worked through a little bit, and I want to hear your opinion on it. We worked through a little bit. How do we properly frame our value and communicate it early in the process so that the customer has some inkling as to whether we are of value to them or not at this particular time?
Yeah.
And I think it's different than it's, we've talked about the 30-second commercial before. How do you articulate what you do? The elevator pitch, which we both despise, but it is the idea of, in a minute or two, how do you foundationally build your value so that the person can say, yeah, man, you came to the right place, or no, we're not even in the same ballpark.
Yes, 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 and yes.
What are some ingredients of that, do you think, that are necessary?
Well, what I wrote down on my whiteboard here, so I like to think out loud about this stuff, is I want to start with something, Bill, you and I talk about all the time on the Advanced Selling Podcast, which is the mindset side of selling, which we can't say the words or we'll get canceled by Tim. Tim will cancel us. We can't say his words. Is his name Tim? First name?
His name is Tim.
Tim.
If he's still with us.
If he's still with us, too. We should actually.
We should find out, and then we can just go crazy with it.
Just go crazy. That's so bad. Come on the podcast and say it 1,000 times right in a row. That's really bad. Is the intention behind what we're doing here. And as you were talking, I never really even thought of it this way myself, even when we teach this. I'm like, okay, so we're coming up with these statements, like there's an elevator pitch, the 30-second, blah, blah, blah. And what's the intention behind those statements? What are we trying to do with those statements? And it's never, to me, one thing. It's in order, and it goes in order. If you, by the way, congrats on 20 years with Same Game New Rules. Is it 25?
Oh, thank you.
30? What is it? 20?
20.
Yeah, 20. Okay. Congrats on that. If you haven't bought Bill's book, Same Game New Rules, then shame on you. Go buy it. Where do you go? SameGameNewRules.com. Get it?
SameGameNewRules.com.
Yeah. Fantastic. And it's timeless. So you put together a model in that book, I believe on page 96. I'm serious. I think it's on page 96. We go unaware to aware, awareness to comprehension, comprehension to conviction, conviction action. That's how people buy things. There's a process they go through. So let's ask ourselves, what I wrote down here is, I want to communicate my value for what? What's the intention? Well, in the beginning, I want to communicate my value to create openness or curiosity on the other side. And right. So my initial statement or statement of value is not to get them to buy from me or even think, oh my gosh, Bill, I need to hire you. Where's the contract? That's intriguing. I want to learn more about that. The next level of value, I think, might change a bit, because then I want to go to the learning and understanding phase, that comprehension part. Like, well, how does Bill Caskey think differently? How is his approach unique? How might it apply in my business and what we're trying to do? And then I go even further with my value statements to say, here's how it actually can really work from an ROI standpoint. Now I'm convicted. Here's a contract. I hire Bill Caskey to be my sales coach. I've never really thought of the value statement that way. I've always thought of one. I've never thought about how that value statement evolves. Because early on, there's just one, it's just an understanding. Like at the beginning, to me, it's just very, very simple. One of the things that we have, I even think I have this in my LinkedIn profile, is and I stole this from a football coach, and I'm not going to say the word so we keep our non-explicit rating, but I teach salespeople how to do S that works and how to avoid doing S that doesn't work. You don't know much there, but everyone can get that sentence. And it's kind of clever, and it's kind of how I would talk anyway.
Kind of edgy.
It's edgy. It's what ends up part of our brand. It's like this. I just teach people how to do S that works and avoid S that don't work. Well, that's instantly understandable from a sales, especially from a VP of sales, a CRO, chief revenue officer, a CEO. They're like, okay, it's clever. Now they're not ready to buy anything yet. And it might be a little intriguing. Well, how do you do that? What do you do? I want to learn more. Then I can get into some more that value stuff of how we see the world. So Bill and I have a value statement that I think is the same, where we believe how you think and feel is the driver of what you do and say. So now I'm getting down into the value of understanding. That's a value statement that I just made. And so people go, okay, that's interesting. Then we can go deeper. Now I'm getting to true comprehension. And one of the value elements Bill and I talk about is intention. Most people don't have intention in their sales playbook. They have how to make a cold call, right? They know a behavior plan, 100 calls a day. They don't have the word intention and examining the philosophy of my intention behind those things. Long answer. That's where my brain went.
That was a long answer. I don't know. I think we're out of time now.
We're done. Thanks for playing. Well,
So I'll
I've never
give my
written one
answer
before.
next week.
Yeah, exactly. This is a dual episode. It's like the Gong things we did, right? You got to get the answer. You got to go listen to the Gong podcast, Bill's other podcast. Go to BillCaskey.com's podcast for Bill's answer.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
This video over
Exactly.
there.
Well, I like the idea of what is the intention of this framing.
Yes.
Is it to convince them that you are the be all end all? No,
Mhm.
because you can't get there in a minute. Is it, though, like you say, to make them clearly aware of what you do with the intention of deciding if you want to hear more or think there's something more to talk about? I like that idea of what's the intention of this. It's to be clearly aware and help them clearly understand what kinds of problems you solve so they can decide if they want to talk further.
Yes.
And if you're using buzzwords and you have all this crazy expectation, it's not going to feel right. And so, yeah, I like that. I like that. I also think there's a real block for people to now what you just described. We help people do S that works and avoid S that doesn't. That's really more of a brand. It's really more of a brand tagline or kind of it sets the stage for the brand, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's intriguing to some.
Yeah, but it doesn't talk
like
about sales. It doesn't talk about leaders. It doesn't talk about.
It says sales. Yeah, we teach
Oh, no.
S people.
Oh, it
Yeah,
does.
salespeople how to do S that
Oh,
works.
okay.
And yeah.
So I think part of the challenge, though, is how when we start to create this, whatever it is, this little clip of language, piece of code, we always think about it from our standpoint. Like we are business advisory services that works with Fortune 500 companies in the U.S. and globally, and we are the number one in the category. Well, that doesn't help the customer connect with anything because there's no connection point there for them. If they said we're a business advisory systems company, I'm just making this up, systems company, and people come to us for one of a couple of reasons in this area. They feel like their lack of systems is costing them a great deal of market opportunity, whatever those pains and problems are. Now you're starting to connect. It's that connective tissue between what you do and what they need. And if you're not willing to look at it through the customer's eyes or the prospect's eyes, then they're always trying to translate, well, business advice, okay, systems, okay, I got it. And while they're thinking about systems, you're babbling away and nobody's hearing either one of us.
No.
So I think that the challenge is to put your value through their eyes and filter it through what they want.
And to me, what's different now, especially than it used to be, that exchange that you just happened used to take place on maybe a cold call and maybe a first call. Now it takes place without us in the room, which goes back to all the things we teach about content. So the stuff you're talking about, Bill, needs to be put in video form or audio form or both or written form that people can digest. So as we're prospecting, we can say, hey, if you want to see how we see the world, go check this YouTube video out. Right. Because once we get in the room, to me, it's too late. Like that should have already been done once we're live, at least part of it, and you can do these things that you're talking about in those.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. That would be a good exercise for our listeners is come up with this. What are let's just say 3, they don't have to be 3. Let's just say three things that you do that help customers solve either a problem or help them avoid a problem or help them reach some kind of a destination. Put that into video form and run and at the back end of that, say, if you have these issues and want to talk to me, I am fielding phone calls now. My link is below. Run that every day for the next year.
Right.
Because the same people aren't going to see that. And if you're shoving out content one day, another content a week later, there's no kind of consistency. But create that video. That way people will start to see, oh, when I have this problem, I go to Bryan.
Yes. I want to at least examine what he does for that problem for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I think people miss with this is back to intention, is they write it or say it with the intention to hook, to get. And I think you need to write it with and I think, Bill, you said this at the very beginning, you need to write it with the intention to have the person have a true depth of understanding so they can decide, I want to talk to Bryan or I don't want to talk to Bryan. And I am, like you even said, like I teach salespeople how to do S that works, and I cuss, and it's a book. Well, that's who I am. That's who we are. And so that people are like, oh, that's kind of offensive. I wouldn't put a cuss word in tagline. That person's probably not going to call me. They're not. And that's okay, because that, it's part of what you get. So
yeah, if you think my tagline was edgy, wait till you get to
wait till you see. Bill and I do a really good job of keeping this non-explicit.
We do.
I mean, we really work hard, because when the recorder's off, it don't sound like
it's
this.
like
It does
sailors,
not
like two sailors,
sound
drunk
like
sailors.
this. Yes.
No, but I think
yeah.
that's a good. I think the topic is, how do you best articulate your value in a minimal amount of time, not 10 seconds, but a minute or two. I think a minute or two, and work on that. Practice it. Bullet point it. Write a letter to yourself, or write a mock letter to somebody. Say, look, here's the 3 problems that customers bring to us, and here's how we go about solving them. And just start to get it out of your brain. I think you'll find it helpful.
Absolutely. That's a great exercise to take from this episode. To do that. And I love using the recording devices we have available to do that. Because once you have that content built, like you said, you could run that ad on LinkedIn for an entire year. You could. And just, then you're going to have, like, air quotes, qualified leads coming in.
Yeah.
Right.
Think about the ads that you hear. Like, we live in the same city.
We do.
Well, actually, we don't.
We don't. I was with some people from out of town, and they said, "Is this the Tony's restaurant in Carmel?" I'm like, "It's Carmel." And then this is funny. People do this. No, it's not. It's Carmel. I'm like, "You're not from here. It's Carmel. It's Carmel everywhere else in the world, but Bill lives in Carmel. If you're in Indiana, go ahead."
But we all have commercials that we hear over and over. Like, there's one for this little eatery called Puccini's.
Yes.
Have you ever heard that one?
We love Puccini's. Smiling
Puccini's, pizza, pasta, Puccini's. And the whole thing is just pizza, pasta, Puccini's, Puccini's, pizza. It's like 30 seconds, and my wife hates it. But guess where we are? It's like, I want a pizza. Oh, Puccini. I like
Puccini's.
Hate their ads.
It's not bad.
So don't worry about overdoing this.
Yes.
And if people start breaking your windows or canceling you from LinkedIn, then you can stop.
Absolutely.
But, you don't have to do it every day, but once a week, do it, shoot a video, say, look, I'm back again talking about these 3 problems, if you haven't, because at some point your prospect is going to have that problem. And they're going to call you.
And you know what? No one ever does at Puccini's. No one ever goes in there, asks for the manager, and says, I'm getting pizza tonight, but I'm not coming here because I don't like your commercials. I'm going to Pizza Hut. Goodbye. Nobody does that, right? They just don't go. Your people do the same way.
They may go with the intention, but when they walk in and smell the pepperoni,
the smiling teeth pizza, Puccini's going to owe us, aren't they? I don't even know who owns Puccini's. We got to figure that out. They owe us. That's some good free advertising. If you're ever in Indianapolis, go to Puccini's Pizza.
Yeah, it is.
You should pay us for that. All right.
Good job today.
Yeah, great stuff. So you got some to-do items on that.
Yep.
Nail down your value. Talk to you next time.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.